Is the Walther PDP worth buying in 2025? That's the question we're gonna try to tackle today. I think it really comes down to what your use case is and what your goals are with this handgun. Starting at the top of this handgun, this is an optics ready slide. However, you have to actually get an optics plate from Walther. You buy this gun and then you have to submit a form to get a free optics plate. It's a little annoying. I wish Walther would just supply plates with these or invent a little bit better of a system. I actually really like the system on the Springfield Echelon. It's a very innovative system where it uses pins and you don't need a bunch of optics plates. However, it is nice that they give you a free one. Please know, when you buy your handgun, you're gonna have to wait for this optics plate to come in before you can mount an optic. But you do have backup iron sights. Talking about those sights, they are plastic. They're adjustable for windage and elevation, but they just feel kind of cheap. Cheaper than the whole gun, surprisingly enough, but they are not a bad option if you have to use them in the meantime. Jumping into the slide itself, what you're gonna find with this gun is that everything is just kind of oversized. And you're definitely gonna see that with the slide itself. The slide is very thick. It's got a tall bore axis. It just feels like everything about this is kind of like a 10mm handgun. The serrations are oversized. Everything about it just seems really large, which definitely has its pros and cons. When manipulating this slide, it's incredibly easy, especially with gloves on, but you're gonna have a lot of weight over this axis point, which is gonna give you a lot of recoil. Talking about recoil, this gun has a very heavy recoil guide rod assembly from factory. It's probably 20+ pounds. And you can definitely notice it when you manipulate the slide, it's heavy. When you shoot, the gun feels snappier than it should because of the heavy recoil spring. We actually threw a lighter recoil spring in here just to smooth out the gun a little bit. Kind of talking quickly about the shooting experience, you'll notice we do have a Herrington arms compensator on there. It is a 2-port compensator, so it's gonna reduce a lot of that muzzle flip, but you can't really beat physics when it comes to this gun. We tried, that's why we'd have a 2-port compensator. With a lower recoil spring and a guide rod, this gun just shoots a little bit snappier than some of our other striker-fired guns. And I think it kind of comes down to how much mass is above your hand and how high the bore axis is. So now you have weight and height. It just leads to a snappier handgun. Moving our way down a little bit, the slide lock slide release again is oversized like the entire gun, but I like it quite a bit. It very much resembles the old-fashioned Walther slide lock slide releases. I had an airsoft gun as a kid that looked very similar to this. It just brings back a little bit of nostalgia, but it works great. When shooting, I noticed I wasn't accidentally holding the slide lock slide release up, which I've done with the SIG P320 and with the Glock series of handguns. And then when I had to reload this handgun, it was no problem hitting that and sending the slide home. I like this lever quite a bit. It's easy to hit, it's out of the way. It's actually nice that it's oversized. And moving further down into the frame itself, this is where I think the PDP shines. The grip texture and ergonomics are amazing on this gun. It's probably better than most striker-fired guns on the market, if not the best. What they did here with this grip texture is very interesting. It's basically an octagonal cone, and it's sharp enough that it is very aggressive, so it'd be good for wearing gloves or standard shooting. This gun is snappy, and it doesn't feel like it's ripping out of your hand because of this grip texture, but not so coarse that you could not conceal carry this. We'll actually talk about a better option later in the video, so stick around for that. But I like the actual ergonomics of this frame. You can see here it's rippled like somebody took a soft piece of plastic and squeezed it, and then made it the Walther PDP frame. So it fits my hand perfectly. My fingers nest in these finger grooves. It just feels very ergonomic to shoot. And that's one of the reasons why I really like the PDP. I think it's got probably the best ergonomics on the market. And with all of the great grip texture and ergonomics, that's already going to give you a more premium feel, which I think the Walther PDP is a very premium feeling handgun. I like the plastic they use for the frame. I like the slide cuts. It makes it look aggressive and premium. So you're gonna kind of see that going forward too with this gun. It's big, but it's very nice. Moving our way down into the trigger of this gun, you're gonna see it has a little bit of a take up, which is not exactly normal for all striker-fired handgun triggers. It's a little bit more than normal, but the wall is very nice. The brake is very tactile. It's probably a little bit lighter of a brake than your standard trigger as well. I don't think we have more than 5,000 to 10,000 rounds on this gun, but the reset leaves a little bit to be desired. It's very positive. It pushes your finger forward. It just is not very tactile. And while we're talking about the trigger, you kind of notice how big this trigger guard is here. This is why I think this is one of the better duty guns on the market potentially. You have a lot of room in here for a gloved finger. If you've ever shot an X Macro with a glove, or even a Glock 19 with a glove, you know it can be a little bit tight. But with the Walther PDP, you got plenty of room in here with the glove finger. It's just an oversized spot. And I think you're gonna see that with the entire PDP, as I said earlier. Everything seems oversized. It seems like they're really pushing that duty aspect hard, so that you could run this with gloves and you'd have no problem manipulating the gun, pulling the trigger, doing reloads, all that kind of stuff. So moving away from the trigger into the mag release, You're gonna see again, it is a large oversized button. It's semi-positive, and the reason I say semi-positive is there seems to be a little bit of drag, especially when you put a loaded magazine in the PDP. If you hold the gun somewhat sideways, it doesn't shoot out the bottom of the gun like you see with some of the Springfields. It's definitely better than Glock, probably because it has metal mags. The spring tension is really nice on the mag release. It's very soft. You don't have to push very hard. You don't have to push all the way until it bottoms out to get that mag to come out. So I do like that. I just wish it was a little bit more positive. And while we're talking about the mag, this is an 18 round magazine. I'm not sure how Walther did this. To me, honestly, this feels like a Glock 17 length frame or your standard 17 round full-size frame. And you can see my hand is all the way at the bottom. So how they squeeze an extra round in here, I'm not exactly sure, but I do appreciate it. 18 is really nice, especially for a duty setup. And last but not least, let's talk about the Magwell on this handgun. I would say they definitely could have did a little bit better of a job on this. There's a little bit of an angle in the front, a little bit in the back, but there's really not much of an angle on these sides. There's a lot of meat here that they could have put an integrated Magwell in, and I think would have really helped, especially for a company that's really pushing a duty gun. Officers, military, they're gonna need to be able to reload fast, and if there's no Magwell or a lack of a Magwell, you're just gonna have a harder time performing a reload, especially under stress. I think this is where they kind of dropped the ball with the PDP. Now there's definitely room for an aftermarket company to make one, and Herrington Arms probably will in the future, but I would have liked to seen this from factory. So this is kind of one of the things I don't like about the frame. So now you guys know what comes with the Walther PDP, but you can see we have a few accessories on here. On top, we have a Holosun 509T. This optic is becoming kind of obsolete. There's a lot of great newer optics from Holosun. The reason I like the 509 is this is a titanium enclosure. It is an enclosed optic, so you can see it's got a piece of glass in the back, and it's a crossbar mounting solution. So the bolt actually goes through the side and it doesn't bolt directly down into the slide. I like this quite a bit. I think it's a very rigid system. And for a duty gun, I think this optic is pretty much perfect. Moving forward, we have the Herrington Arms HG PDP XL compensator. This is a 2-port compensator. I like this design quite a bit. I think it matches the slide a little bit better than our standard PDP compensator, and it's gonna help some of that recoil with the snappiness of this gun. So it's gonna increase your shooting experience quite a bit. I also think it just looks amazing on this gun. I think it's probably one of the better looking compensators we've actually designed, and I'm really glad that it is actually available now. So if you guys are interested in this compensator, go check out HerringtonArms.com. As I mentioned earlier, we do have a lighter recoil spring in here. I want to say it's a 15-pound recoil spring. It definitely makes it a smoother experience. The lighter recoil spring is what they should have did from the beginning. The reason I think they did not is because they have all this weight up here and they have to stop it from beating the gun apart. However, with the compensator and a lighter recoil spring, this gun shoots a lot softer. It's just gonna be a lot less punchy to shoot. So we had to throw it in there, not because the compensator won't run on the OEM spring, but because it just makes this gun way better to shoot. Moving our way down, we have a Streamlight TLR1 HL. I've talked about this weapon light a lot. If you guys wanna see more information about this light, check out one of our videos we've done a few years ago, where it's gonna break down all of the different weapon lights that are on the market at that time. And you'll see that the TLR1 HL is a great little weapon light. And what I recommend is that you put a weapon light on a handgun. You can't really shoot what you can't see, so it's important to be able to see your target. You're gonna be able to do that with a weapon light. So now for the question of the hour, who should buy this gun in 2025? The Walther PDP is clearly built for people that want to make it a duty setup with the larger slide cuts, the bigger frame, the more aggressive grip texture, the way the trigger is set up. It's clear that this is made for duty use. One thing to keep in mind is it is a little bit heavier than a lot of your other duty guns. So you need to weigh the pros and cons. I think this definitely has a solid place as a duty setup, but if you want a little bit more of a versatile gun or you don't want to train with multiple platforms, this really wouldn't be the perfect carry gun. It's a little bit big, it's a little bit heavy, so you couldn't go from duty to concealed carry like you could with a Glock 19 or a Glock 45. That's why I would recommend the Walther PDP F series, as I alluded to earlier. I think the F series is a little bit better of a setup for concealed carry. I think the regular PDP is better for duty. So if you're serious about the Walther PDP, I would recommend looking at both. You might be able to make the F series work for both, but this bigger setup is definitely gonna make it easier to manipulate in harsh conditions. If it was raining outside and I had to wear an OWB holster, this is probably one of the guns I would want to run. The grip texture is great, the slide is great. I would have no issue manipulating this gun with gloves in wet conditions. However, if you are serious about carrying this Walther PDP, we're actually gonna be doing a video on it where I suffer for 7 days carrying this handgun. So make sure you subscribe to the channel so you can watch that video when it comes out. Otherwise, if you guys like this video, we'd appreciate a like and subscribe. We'll see you next time.